everyone. I'm Travis Hatton, the music director of the Beaverton Symphony Orchestra, and we are here this weekend with our very, very first live audience concert that we have had in a very long time. And I'm also here today with the composer of our first piece of music on today's program. This is Mr. Bruce Stark. Bruce, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we're really excited about your piece. For one thing, as just as a little bit of a background, the Beaverton Symphony does do music by living Northwest composers. A couple of times a year. I mean, we don't do tons of concerts, but we do a couple of pieces every year. And I had researched your piece a couple of years ago, and I was drawn by the piece, of course, and I also just happened to be drawn by the title. The title of the piece is Overture to New Beginnings. And I thought to myself, well, it's a great way to start the season, right? It's a great way to start the season, new beginnings, new season, and all of that. Of course, then we had a pandemic. And so now we're opening up with with live concerts again for the first time in 2 years. So New Beginnings has a whole new meaning for us. But I know for a fact that you did not write this piece as an inspiration to the pandemic.
It's true. I wrote it. I wrote it a long time ago. Yeah, it's
right.
Back in 2000.
Right. So long before there was even a thought of a pandemic.
Who would have thought?
So tell us about this piece a little bit. And how is it that you, first of all, came to compose it, and why is it that it ended up with the title that it has?
It was originally commissioned for the Millennium, celebration of the Millennium by a composer, David Charles Abel, back in England. And so the initial idea was that, although even when I began to write it, I wanted to write a piece that was a broader theme than just the Millennium, because the Millennium comes and goes, and I'll experience another one of those in my life. And I thought, let me just reach for something bigger. We all relate to new beginnings in our lives. Right. So that was the genesis. It's just this general idea of starting new in some way, which we can all relate to in one way or the other. Right.
So instead of calling it Overture to the New Millennium,
which
would mean, it would be appropriate again in 1,000 years. Overture to New Beginnings, never knowing that we were going to be shut down for like a year and a half with new pandemics, and then going to be reopening to new beginnings.
Really?
Here now.
I would never have thought such a thing.
Yeah. So the piece is, the piece, I have to tell you, I find the piece pretty approachable in most ways. I know that some people, you are a contemporary composer, of course. I mean, people are not going to be expecting Brahms or even Stravinsky out of this piece. So tell me something about how it is that you have different languages going on in the piece. So
Yeah. In fact, this piece actually has some of the more, as you say, there's some very approachable or consonant passages, more tonal aspects, but then there are parts that go beyond that very much. For me, I wanted to use this broad harmonic language from rather almost like, well, there's triadic stuff in there. There's really more traditional writing, and then I wanted to have this range where it goes into much more dissonant writing to kind of reflect, and in the context of now coming out of the pandemic, it seems even more relevant.
Right.
But this idea of overcoming obstacles is kind of a theme in the piece. So we start with some anticipation, and then it moves into a pretty rough stretch, and then we come through triumphant. So I wanted that triumphant feeling at the end.
Right, we do win.
We win, exactly, and this piece affirms that.
I have to say, you just said going through the obstacles, which I know for a fact that a number of people in the orchestra will appreciate, because this piece is not easy to play.
Another kind of obstacle.
Yeah. It's also really super dense. I mean, the textures. I think that there are certain places where the texture is the main thing going on in the piece. I mean, of course, there's counterpuntal things going on, but really, and I've studied the score, it's hard for me to actually hear some of the stuff when the texture, some of those contrapuntal motive details when the textures are so thick. So the texture just sort of overwhelms.
Yeah, but that's intentional. I love the way you described that. It's just, it is just this fabric, this kind of controlled cacophony coming at you sometimes.
Well, and it starts off with these motivic, and the two kind of fugal sections that you have, if I can, or canonic sections, if you will. Certainly hear the motives for a while, but then, the texture overtakes that and just becomes cacophony.
It sort of intoxicates the piece.
Intoxicates the piece. I think we're getting some good words here, folks. Yeah. So I understand that you've also revised this piece a few times over the years.
Yeah, it's been a nice study piece for my growth as an orchestral composer. I've written a set of symphonic dances after that, quite a bit after that. But this piece, I think I learned more from the various versions. It's gone over actually 3 pretty significant waves of revisions. And in fact, the performances this weekend are actually a premiere of a revised version from 2019, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah,
So.
okay, right.
And may I take 1 second to say something I want to say now that I've got the conductor here and I'm sharing something with the audience, and that is just how much I appreciate Maestro Hatton taking the chance of programming this new piece, relatively new.
Well, yeah.
It means the world to us living composers to hear it on the real stage.
Well, you know what? I thank you for saying that, but I also think it means a lot to just the artistic viability in the community. And it's full disclosure, my undergraduate degree was also in theory and composition, so I have some heart for. I'm not a composer, don't get me out of it, but I obviously have had to dabble in it at least to graduate. So I have some real sympathy for you guys out there doing the work in the trenches, and maybe not getting quite as performances. But I assume you have had the performances of the revisions of this piece as it's going forward.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. This has been played by maybe 4 different orchestras and sometimes multiple. This is going to be the 6th and 7th performance this weekend. We had the 6th last night.
Okay, right.
So I've been very fortunate in that sense.
Yeah. So you've had really great opportunities to hear it and decide what kind of revisions you want. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hope that you have the definitive version.
I think I do. I think I've got it now. Listening last night, I thought, this piece is done. I can finally say.
Okay, good. Bravo. Well, I just want to say, thanks a lot for composing this piece. Thanks a lot for, you and other composers in the area have to make sure that you get the word out about your pieces, because that's how guys like me find out about it. Because I do my research just online, that's how I ran across you and your piece. So thank you for making it available. Thank you for composing the piece. And most of all, thank you so much for just coming here this weekend. I mean, I know this is not your home area, and you had to come down here and hang out with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and it's been really great meeting the people. The energy in this orchestra, I could just feel it from the players and, of course, from you.
Okay.
It's a wonderful place to be, so thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming again, Bruce. So it's Bruce Stark, composer from the Seattle area, Overture to New Beginnings, the first piece on really the new beginning, not just the new season for the Beaverton Symphony Orchestra, but the new beginnings of live audience concerts after the pandemic. And we're all so excited, not just for that, but also for Bruce's piece. Thanks again, Bruce.